what we often forget is, or what we are not told, what we are not taught, is that when we got independence, the method, the mode by which we got independence, where Congress was instrumental in the transfer of power in the negotiations, that process was completely opposite to what Congress had been preaching for the previous 20, 30 years. So what are those? I mean, when I say those, these are things which are right in front of our eyes, but we don't see them. So when we talk about these things, what are the factors? First is Purna Swaraj, complete independence, the resolution that was passed in Lahore in 1929. And that was, I mean, we are, again, that is another historical misconception, that we are told that that was the first time Congress passed the Purna Swaraj as the objective of the Congress, which is not true. The first time the Purna Swaraj resolution was passed was 2 years before that in Madras Congress in 1927. And the person who pushed for that resolution was Jawaharlal Nehru. And when Jawaharlal Nehru did that, Gandhi ji was very, very mad with him. He said, how dare you do something like that? This is utterly silly. India is not prepared for freedom. India is not ready for freedom. And it is insane to even talk about complete independence at this time. And that annoyed Nehru a lot. So Nehru entered into a big, bitter debate with Gandhi. And that went really, really bitter. But as it happened, and as it will keep happening over the next their lifetimes, that Nehru will, on the basis of principles and ideals, will always differ with Gandhi, always, on all key matters. But when it comes to taking a decision, to putting the vote somewhere, he will always abide by Gandhi's wish. So he never agreed with Gandhi on the major principles, but he always voted in line with what Gandhi wanted.
Like, for example, when Patel easily won hands down the race for the prime ministership,
Absolutely.
Nehru agreed with Mahatma Gandhi.
Absolutely. And the principle of democracy did not bother him at that time. And so that was the first thing that that the Congress took a 180-degree turn. Complete independence was the goal, but what did we settle for? We settled for dominion status. Dominion status was completely rejected by Congress in 1929. And that is why the resolution was passed, that we reject dominion status, we want complete independence.
Dada, can you please explain to many of the youngsters what does actually dominion mean?
Okay, dominion status is, ठीक है, देखने के लिए you are free, आप अपना थोड़ा municipality चला लो, central government में थोड़े बहुत आपके नेता लोग होंगे, the provinces will be run by your party or your people. But the final say on the crucial matters, something like defense, economic policy, or foreign policy, we will have, which is the British Raj. They will
Like
have a
the
big
Delhi
amount of
state
say.
government, basically.
Kind of. and the king or the queen will be the figurative head of India. So that is dominion status. So when India got dominion status in 1947, we had to take the King Emperor's permission, that so and so Jawaharlal Nehru had to write a letter to His Excellency, Your Majesty, that I am I'm appointing this person as a minister, this person is being appointed as the Governor General. So, and then the King Emperor would write back, give his approval, and then he would be appointed.
So this itself, friends, is unbelievably shocking. That what we've learned, Dada, in our textbook so far is India got independence in 1947.
Not. Absolutely not. That was not independence.
Here, the Prime Minister of India is asking for permission of the King, addressing him as Your Majesty.
Yes.
That these are the people I would like to appoint with your permission.
Right.
Crazy.
And the second matter that the Congress, which vehemently opposed, was staying in the zone of influence of the British Empire. They wanted, the Congress wanted a separate, unique entity. They wanted their own identity, to build their own identity. But what happens in 1947? Pandit Nehru goes to London, chats up with the British Prime Minister and the royal family, and signs an agreement, and comes back and tells the Constituent Assembly that I have signed an agreement. Please now ratify this agreement. What is this agreement? This agreement was India joining the British Commonwealth. And to make it more palatable, digestible, the British government, the British Prime Minister Clement Attlee removed the word British. So it just became the Commonwealth of Nations. It was always the British Commonwealth, and it is still British Commonwealth, of which we are still a member. Of course, the nature has changed. Qualitatively, it has changed a lot over the last 60, 70 years. But at that time, it was firmly the British Commonwealth of Nations, and India, under the Congress, under Pandit Nehru, who had vehemently opposed the idea of being associated or being under the zone of influence of the British Empire, meekly went and signed that agreement. So that was the second about turn. And the third about turn was accepting partition. Congress leaders had always been very, very vocal against partition of India. But what we again don't accept, what we don't realize, or what we are not taught in our schools and colleges and the texts, is that partition, the principle of partition of the country, was not accepted in 1947. Partition just did not come all of a sudden. Congress had accepted, and listen to this carefully, you should go back and check this out. I'm sure a lot of history students here, political science students are here. Congress accepted the principle of partition in 1942, not 1947. When the Cripps mission came and the negotiations were going on, the Congress Working Committee passed a resolution that if some community or some parts of the country want to go out of India, what we call India, they have the freedom to do that, and we will accept it. So when the issue re-emerged in 1946 and the Congress tried to oppose that thing, we find Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad writing to Sardar Patel that how can we even oppose this now, because we had accepted way back in 1942. So don't go by the popular narrative. I mean, the popular narrative means there are the narrative, I call it a fantasy. It was a myth which was built and created way back in 1947 itself. And it has two main pillars. These two main pillars is that the Gandhian non-violent movement gave us freedom, and India is a democracy because of Pandit Nehru. Okay, these two pillars have held on its shoulders this narrative which have been built, and we are still believing in that. We are living with that illusion. But the other main thing, Anand, which rankles your heart, actually, when you look at it and you feel the pain, is there was a movement. Nobody in India, all the freedom fighters I'm talking about, they did not want a negotiated, compromised independence. They wanted to snatch independence. Independence is not given, it is taken. Freedom is not given, it is taken. I mean, which was famously said by Subhash Bose. So, and he acted according to his principles. He wanted to take freedom away, snatch freedom away from the British Raj. Unfortunately, he could not reach India to do that. His army did. And because of his army, there was such a violent upheaval across the country, which was autonomous, which was not started by the Congress, much as the Congress would like to take the credit for it. The British Raj realized that their time was over. They could not trust the Indian soldiers anymore, and the Indian soldiers were the pillars of their empire. And when you take the Indian soldiers out of the equation, their empire crumbles. So that is what happened.
Dada is he's like Yogi's bulldozer. He's demolishing all these things one by one. So point number one, we never got independence. We got a dominion status in 1947. Point number two, the partition was proposed by Congress way back in 1942. Not in 1947, as it is told, it was thrust upon us and we grudgingly agreed to it. And point number three, that is shockingly revealed in this book also, is the fact that on 15th August 1947, Mountbatten told Nehru, please don't lower the Union Jack. And Nehru said yes. So on the day you are celebrating the birth of a new nation, the empire, the flag representing the empire was not lowered, and INA protested and they were barred from entering the Red Fort.